Good morning. Today we're going to do just a little lesson on where our food comes from and get our minds thinking about what we eat and where it comes from and maybe how far it comes from. So let's hop on in and get started. Okay, so where food comes from. Let's get our minds and our wheels spinning a bit. Think about these questions. Maybe discuss them in your classes or at home if you're watching this at home with your family. First question, where does food really come from? The next question is, how do we know where food comes from? Does food come from here? The grocery store? Is it grown right there on the shelf? The lettuce next to the peppers? And the eggplant right next to the lettuce as well? Does it grow just like that? How about this? Do the bananas grow right there on the shelves, freshly bundled just like that for you, with stickers already attached? Those stickers, though, to answer one question, indicate where food comes from, right? So when you're at the grocery store, a lot of times they'll have stickers on it that say grown in wherever they're grown, right? Or maybe there's just a little sign that says local, grown in Juneau County or grown in Mauston. When you're at the grocery store, maybe next time, check it out and see what you can find. So, to answer the question about bananas, no, they're not grown in a grocery store. They grow on trees like this. And they're harvested off those trees and shipped around the world because we can't grow bananas outside here and different climates can. So food can come from a few different places, right? It can come from fields, like that one picture, right? It can be made in a warehouse or, an operation like that one pictured. Food can come from animals, right? It can also be grown in trees and orchards like those apples pictured. But a lot of our food and where it comes from depends on the soil and the soil health, which is a whole nother topic that we can totally get into and dive deeper into in another lesson. But I just want you to know how important taking care of our soil is, right? For our animals and what they eat can oftentimes depend on the soil health, right? And food, crops, plants grown in the soil and in the fields, as well as in orchards and on the vine and in greenhouses, also depends on the soil. The nutrients and the minerals and all of that sort of thing that comes from the soil and the life in the soil, right? Because our soil is alive. There's all kinds of microbes and all things, to discover and find in the soil. So our food can come from a variety of places, but it also depends upon our soil and how we take care of it. So when you think about Wisconsin and our area, does this type of food production happen in Wisconsin? Do we have food grown in fields here? How about from animals and cows? We don't have any cows in Wisconsin, do we? Of course we do. How about orchards, right? A ton of orchards. And manufacturing and plants like this one. We have a few of those, right? In Wisconsin, we have places like that process milk and cheese and several other things. Let's talk about food miles, right? We talked about bananas, and they're not grown in Wisconsin. So we think about food miles, and that means how far does our food travel from where it's produced and harvested to where it's purchased and consumed, which would be like a grocery store, right? So, for example, you go to the grocery store and you see a local Apple sign. Food miles could be 5 miles, 10 miles, right? It's local. Or you could see those bananas and it could be an extremely long amount of food miles. And that kind of depends on the season, right? You're not going to get a local apple in Wisconsin in the middle of March. So the apples that you see in March are not typically close. They're food miles, and the distance traveled is longer. When we talk about where we can get food, we have the grocery stores, but we also have farmers markets, farm stands. We have home growing, right? You can grow in your own home in containers or in gardens. And there are several benefits and disadvantages to all of them, right? So grocery stores, you can get things that typically aren't grown in season, which is amazing, but also they have more food miles and aren't as local sometimes. Whereas you have farmers markets, and those are so tasty, right? The fruits and vegetables you can get there and the farm stands are so good, but the downside is it's only available for a short amount of time. So that's kind of the disadvantage when there are so many benefits to it, right? And growing at home, same kind of thing. You know, your season might be shorter, but there's several things that you can do. You can take those fruits and vegetables and things that you get locally and preserve them, right? Save them so you can have them in winter. And we can get more into that later as well, but just be thinking about that. So let's talk about what you had for lunch today, or maybe yesterday. Think about what you had on your plate. Where could those things have come from? Did they come from local places? Did they come from far away places? How were they grown? Are they grown in a greenhouse, maybe, or in the soil? How about an orchard? Did they come from an orchard? Feel free to talk about this with your class, and as you're moving forward with your day and your week, think about where all the food that you eat comes from. And if you can buy local and support farmers, right, in our area, try it and see, is the flavor better? Do you like the different varieties or colors or options that you can get? And when you're thinking about that and while you're at it, make sure to thank a farmer for growing and raising your food, because they are working so hard to provide food for people, right? They're providing our food for us. And so that's an amazing thing that we need to make sure that we're thanking them. So thank you all for watching and learning with me, and I hope you have an amazing day.